All right, which guys are we lower on? Because we have some unique draft boards. A lot of our stuff's going to look a lot like everyone else's because, good football players generally rise to the top. But we definitely have some guys way lower than other people are expecting.
But there are also going to be a lot of guys who are just volatile prospects who some people like and don't because, depending on the game, but they're just inconsistent at the moment. And when you're inconsistent in college, some people are going to see the game where you played poorly, and some people are going to see the games where you played well and say, I can harness that well. Some people will see the games they played poorly and say, that's what he's going to be at the next level. We take the grades more, the breadths. We have all the games, so we say, over all his games, he wasn't that good. That's why we're probably lower on some of these guys.
You weren't here last week, but Sam and I went pretty in depth about what we do versus traditional scouting and that basic concept. I thought that was a fun little discussion about the 4-game sample, the 6-game sample versus us having every single snap.
And so Rashan Gary is kind of the poster boy for that in terms of you see reps on tape where you think, oh my Lord, like he picks up offensive tackles off the ground sometimes. If he can do that every single time, he's worth a top 5 pick. Yes, if he can harness that, he's worth that top 5 pick that he's being rumored to go. But the amount of times he does it, the consistency with which he does it is not even close to being willing for us to invest top 5 pick. He's later in our top 50.
If and when he crushes the combine, does that change your mind on him at all?
No, it's your point. You're about to say it. I know. Don't check athleticism twice. Don't.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to. You already saw
the athleticism on tape. Right. It's not gonna.
If we're gonna look at athleticism at the combine, there are certain positions where it matters a little bit more. There are certain positions, if a corner runs a 4.8, you're gonna do a double take on him. If an edge rusher puts up ridiculous numbers, you might go back and try to, talk yourself into him. I just want to see are we going to talk ourselves into Rashan Gary and. Our valuations aren't final, but we see him more as a second-round type of prospect. I don't see myself changing my mind on him and putting him in a first-round mock over these next couple of months, even if he breaks.
No, I've watched all his snaps from this past season, and I just could not feasibly get on board with that.
Daniel Jones, another guy that we're higher on. He's not making our top 50 initially. I don't know if he'll break it. We're going to probably have him as an early third-round type of player. When we talk about developmental type of players, I don't think he's not inaccurate to the point where he's broken or anything like that. He is inconsistent from snap to snap. And when we do talk about developmental prospects, the thing I will say for Daniel Jones is we've seen him get better. We've seen him take this step. He's still fairly young, and he has some NFL type of tools. So I don't think, again, using Hackenberg as the extreme example, I don't think this is a Hackenberg, unfixable situation. But I think the Daniel Jones risk of trying to get him to become an NFL quarterback is a good risk in the third round rather than the first or second.
Yeah, exactly. If you're taking him in the top 15, you're saying he's starting for you for 2 years. If you're taking him first round, right. Again, like there's only been a handful of first round quarterbacks that haven't started at quarterback for the team for multiple seasons, that haven't made it all the way through their rookie contract with the team. It just rarely happens. But so you're forcing a guy who you have major concerns about into a starting role right away, it just doesn't seem like it's going to work out. That's why we're saying third round is where he might not even see the field over the course of his rookie contract in the third round. That's where we'd be more comfortable developing a guy like that.
That's where I liked a guy like Mike Glennon a couple years ago.
And I think he went third round. So,
yeah. But there was first round hype for Mike Glennon at one point. And he's a guy that put together some reasonable starts.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
You hope that you just can increase that consistency.
And I think that's a third rounder is worth a backup quarterback who can come in and maybe win you a game when your starter gets hurt, play some adequate football.
Like a Nick Foles.
That's worth a third rounder. Yes, that's worth a third rounder. That's where you should draft those guys. You shouldn't just push them up all of a sudden because, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl now. Those guys are now all of a sudden more valuable. No, they're not. They're still not worth the first rounders.
All right, a couple of the guys that we are lower on. Ed Oliver, we're going to have right around 22. Of course, he's still getting top 10 hype. I think people are souring on him enough that I think those are merging, our takes versus the community's take. Greg Little, I think his stock's really been all over the place depending on who you talk about.
He's another guy who's been all over the place, yes.
Talk to. Drew Lock, he's getting top 10 hype. We're going to have him bottom end of the first round just because he's a step below Haskins in our world. And again, there's let's just say this. There's a breadth of outcomes, essentially, in player evaluation. And not just college to pro, but NFL year to year. You know, like when a player's something year one, there's a range of outcomes the next year for what he's going to be. He's not going to be the same exact guy from a production standpoint. He'll be within a range, right? The Drew Lock range is just way lower than we like to see. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a small percentage chance that he hits this high end and a much bigger percentage chance that he hits this below average NFL quarterback range, which is like, all right, when do you really take that?
Yeah, I completely agree. The quarterback value aspect, or the quarterback where you draft quarterbacks, is a very interesting conversation because we always say, quarterback's so much more valuable, but it's a position where you don't want to be, like, just having an average quarterback is not actually that valuable. Like, it's not necessarily, even though it might be worth more wins above replacement than Aaron Donald, the 13th best quarterback, might be worth more wins above replacement. You can't get a defensive tackle that's even close to Aaron Donald.
Yeah, you don't want to saddle yourself to that quarterback, right?
Exactly. So that's what I'm getting at. It's difficult to sort of parse that out.
So I would say so in a perfect world, Locke is the guy for, again, I'm using the Patriots as an example, but you could say the Saints if they had the pick, the team that's looking to have a guy sit. Even if the Steelers don't believe in Mason Rudolph, do they want the next guy to sit, see who the replacement's going to be for Big Ben, whoever it is, the Chargers, the next guy for Phillip Rivers, right? I feel like Drew Lock's in that range where if I was one of those teams and he's like, say, an average quarterback, and you can try to develop him because there still is a chance that he could develop. It might be low, but it doesn't. But you're not tied to him.
Yes.
Right? So you want to give him a chance. So like if Andy Dalton had a chance to just like maybe become elite while he's sitting behind someone, I'm just using an example, right?
Yeah.
You would take that chance knowing that you could always get the next guy. It's a tough.
Yes.
It's really a tough
like Andy
place to
Dalton
be.
went where he should have gone.
Yeah, he did. I think so.
And that's where quarterbacks like that should go because one, they don't always hit, and two, when they do hit, it's not exceptionally high end.
I thought Geno Smith, right? So the Jets took Geno Smith in the second. It was their third pick of the draft. They had 2 first-rounders and then drafted Geno Smith. And even though Geno Smith didn't pan out, I thought it was an excellent use of a draft pick.
Yes.
Right? You say, oh, you lost your second-round pick, but that is the type of risk-reward that you might want to take on a quarterback in the second. They were never truly tied to him as the starter. You just see what you get, and then you move on if you have to quickly.
But I feel like the whole conversation about quarterback value, passing game being so much more important, is pushing the guys that used to go there in that range
just pushing them
higher
up, right? So Drew Lock will very potentially go top 10, as people say. All right, 2 Mississippi State guys that were lower on: Montez Sweat on the edge, Jonathan Abram at safety. I think both guys just had issues from a production standpoint. Sweat, I mean, you're really low on him compared to others, and you're our edge defender guru here.
Yeah, so I get he has long arms. I get that he's fairly explosive for his size, but that only gets you so far. Offensive tackles in the NFL are very strong and very big and have long arms. You have to have something else to be able to scare them, and at this point, I don't think Montez Sweat has that something else that scares me.
Yeah, look, again, if you haven't rushed the passer at a high level in college on a snap-for-snap basis, we've rarely seen the jump at the next level.
And he had that one rep at the Senior Bowl that everyone highlighted. And again, it was just a bull rush through a college offensive tackle, and even a smaller college. It was Tyus Howard, the Alabama State guy. So he's not even close to NFL level at this point, NFL ready at this point. That was his one rep, and even just in terms of his win rate at Senior Bowl was not that good in the one-on-ones.
No more one-play scouting. Sweat most recently in Mel Kiper's mock draft, number 5. To the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think that would also be too high. As far as Abram goes, I think he's another, like a Rashan Gary. He's made Feldman's freak list. He's really fast. I feel like he could be the guy that he didn't grade well for us. He had 2 exceptional games in the grading. I think we can maybe post something about that in the future and show how like his high end, but overall in his career did not grade well. But I could also see him in that Keanu O'Neal role where he just plays this simplistic strong safety role where he uses his athleticism and flies to the ball. So I think in the right scheme, maybe you get something out of him, but I'm not ready to put him in the first round like some other people are. And then let's just discuss from a running back standpoint, the top running back on our draft board, by the way, to the dismay of George and Eric, the fact that we put him even this high, Josh Jacobs from Alabama, who's getting top 5 hype as well, top 10 hype, and we've put him at 41. So this is one of those, Mike, where we're going to get we're going to get trashed by normal football people for putting our top running back at 41, and then we're going to get trashed in the building by our numbers guys for putting him as high as 41. They're like, no, put him in the 4th round. Don't care how good he is. But Josh Jacobs is a very good running back as a player. He's very
but then again, it comes down to you can take Josh Jacobs. And I've seen him top 10. I've seen him, mocked to the top 10. You can take Josh Jacobs there. You'll get a good running back. We believe is a good running back. He has receiving skills as well. But then you could also get David Montgomery at 50 or Devin Singletary at 60. You get one of those guys there, far less investment, and the incremental difference is negligible.
Right.
Dave Montgomery after the catch is absurdly good. He broke 23 tackles a couple of years ago on only 36 catches. He is great in space. He's the most elusive running back we've seen. So that sort of difference in talent ability or difference in production that you'll get from those two just does not warrant drafting a guy that highly.
Yeah, and if you guys want more information on why we hate running backs, I thought Eric Eager did a really nice job writing about Zeke Elliott, because everybody's asking about our Zeke grades this year, and there's a difference between our grades and value. But even the grades were lower because he had 6 fumbles, which is absurd for a running back. That's way too high. That pulled him down quite a bit. But even when Eric dove in through the numbers, there actually wasn't anything special about him as a running back compared to what his run blocking was. So the point we try to make is I think Zeke is an extremely talented running back. There is a difference in running back talent, but it does not always come across in running back production. That is the biggest issue. The difference in talent does not match the difference in production. That's the simplest way of saying running backs don't matter. Everybody likes to get this extreme running backs don't matter thing. That's what they're saying.
There are a lot of guys who are big and fast and elusive.
Yeah.
There just are a lot.
But there's also slow guys.
There's not a lot
who, if the run blocking is good, will get also, 5, right? And that's the other issue too. Is you're also dependent on your surroundings more than other positions. That's the whole running back argument.